You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Bryan Catherman, and this is a podcast about ministry and the Christian life. Well, I am excited to have my friend back, and you've been on the program before, Jonathan.
I have.
Jonathan Howe.
A return engagement.
You came back. It must have been an okay experience before. You came back. Jonathan is the Vice President of Communication for the Southern Baptist Convention Executive Committee. Did I get that right?
That's right.
He doesn't need it. I got that right. Okay. And he is the host of SBC Weekly. He does that with Amy Whitfield. No, did I get that wrong? What's it called?
SBC This Week.
SBC This Week. And he does
You
that
got
with
the hard
Amy.
one right and the easy one wrong.
I know, right? And that's
All right.
really easy because it just comes up in the podcast, but I just hit play when it comes up, right? So
Yep.
he does that with Amy Whitfield. And you've been doing that for quite a while, right?
Yes. Next month. So we're recording this in April, but in May, like the end of May of 2022 will be 7 years
Really?
of that podcast, which is
Well,
crazy. We're like at episode 375.
The podcast you're on has been going for almost 12 years.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I just
Good
thought
for
I'd
you,
throw that
man.
out there.
How about that?
But it's not as popular or as cool. So,
Yeah, well,
whatever. And we don't have Amy Whitfield.
nope.
That's why.
That's
why
the
it
secret
goes-
to the success there.
She's the secret sauce of the whole thing, right?
She is.
Well, here's what I want to do. So, Jonathan, you are highly connected to the inner workings of the Southern Baptist Convention on so many levels. And you know so much more about it than the rest of us that are just out there trying to make sense of it. So my hope is that we could talk a little bit about some of the things we're seeing in the news. Now, I don't want to talk about the specific dynamics, but more so the processes of what's going on. And right now, what we're seeing fairly often and has been kind of a hot topic for discussion among Southern Baptists, at least, is the nominations for the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And part of that is because the current president has said he was not going to run for a second term. And the other part of that is there's been kind of some unique things that have played out in this, with people either involved or not involved, or people nominating other people. I mean, like, I'm just going to throw like the Voddie Baucham thing was sort of a big newsworthy thing for people who are not accustomed to typical SBC news. And then just watching how the whole thing is playing out. Not to mention, there are a few other positions in the SBC that are needing to be filled. And I think some of that is causing some confusion just among those who don't follow this very closely. So for you, Jonathan, you're in this every day. This is all old hat. It just
Lucky me, right?
You probably know all the constitutional numbers, like, oh, well, according to article whatever, dot whatever.
Yeah.
The rest of us don't. So I thought it would just be helpful to walk through this a little bit. And maybe the easiest way to do that is just to start with what is the authority and the responsibility of the SBC. As a qualifier, I'm going to say the convention president, because I'm not sure if that's actually the title, but to qualify.
No, that's the right thing. The SBC, Southern Baptist Convention president.
Okay. Perfect.
And so, that's an annual election. Everybody talks about, well, it's 2 years. It's like, no, it's a 1 year thing. You're eligible to serve 2 consecutive terms. So, for example, just let's, kicks and giggles here. Bryan Catherman gets nominated for the SBC presidency, serves 1 year, and decides, you know what, I want to do another year, serves a second year. He can't serve anymore.
It's already a miracle that he was able to serve a second year in this.
Yeah. Well, he can't have a third. He can't have a third term. And let's just be clear. These are terms, not exactly years, because a couple of years ago, we had an SBC annual meeting canceled. Therefore, the term was extended until the next SBC annual meeting. So everybody likes to say, yes. So it's from meeting to meeting. So if a meeting gets canceled, you can't do the work of the convention and elect a new president. Therefore, they carry that on until the next meeting of the convention. So in 2020, when we were canceled, J.D. Greer, his term was 2 years for his second term. So his first year was 1 year he was elected in 18 to 19, and then was elected again from 19 until 21. That was the length of his second term was 2 years.
Okay, so I have a question about that, but first, just for clarity's sake, for those who might not be super familiar with the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention technically only is in existence and meets during that annual meeting when the messengers have all gathered, and then they have numerous entities and people involved to
That's
do the
correct.
work of what the messengers have said. So just for those who are thinking, okay, what meeting are we talking about? That meeting.
Yeah, that's
And,
the meeting. Yeah.
This year it's going to be in Southern California, and these are the things you see in the news. It's in June. But okay, so let me ask you this question. If for some reason JD's first term would have been that 2-year long term, would he still been eligible for a second term?
He would have, because he
Okay.
was only served one term.
So the term
It's
goes
not
from
years, it's
meeting to
terms.
meeting,
The term just happens to be a year, typically. Yeah. So
Most
it's from
years.
meeting to meeting. So
There was a Southern Baptist Convention meeting canceled during World War II, right?
That's correct. 1945, I believe, was the last
Okay, so
time
it does
canceled.
happen, but,
Uh-huh.
but we don't want to see that happen again in our
No,
lifetime.
let's not make a habit of that, please.
No. Okay. So the convention president's term is from 1 year, or from meeting to meeting, typically a year. What's his responsibilities and his authority, or her?
So
I guess it could be a her, right?
Yeah, three main responsibilities of the SBC president. The first and foremost is to conduct the meeting. He's the moderator of the meeting. So, you have a church business meeting, whoever your church moderator, usually it's the pastor, executive pastor, chairman of the deacons or elders, whatever, whoever that's determined in your bylaws and constitution is that moderator. That's the SBC president for the SBC annual meeting. So,
okay, so
that's first and
responsibility
foremost.
number one.
Yeah, that's number
Okay.
one. So he's in charge of moderating the meeting. He's the guy with the gavel.
But
Okay.
he doesn't have. Okay, he can assign that to a second vice.
Yeah, he
president,
can.
vice
Yeah,
president.
sometimes the first vice president, second vice president, they'll, hey, for the remainder of this session, they're going to preside over the meeting.
But
He has
he's
the authority to
responsible
delegate that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Cool.
so that's number one. Number two, he is tasked with nominations. And that's the big thing. And that's kind of the quote unquote power of the position, because you get to set the direction of who's nominated for specific positions across the convention. The big one is the committee on committees. Yes, we're Baptist. We have a committee on committees.
Hey, I want to speak into that for just a minute.
Yes,
I'm on that.
you served on that, baby.
I'm on
Twice.
it again. I'm on it right now.
Return engagement.
Again, here's the thing that people, they joke and they laugh. Oh, we're Baptists. We have a committee to set committees. But that's actually a really, really cool thing, because it creates a stopgap from the president, for example, being able to put some people in place, and then they nominate tons of different roles, trustees on the seminary boards,
Yes.
IMB, like they're filling a lot of positions, but the committee on committee is picking the people that are on the next committee to fill those positions. So it creates kind of a 2-year rhythm that keeps from just having the good old boy system. So when people are bagging on that, I'm like, no, that's a process.
Yes, it's a really good kind of you called it a stopgap. That's a pretty good description. It's also kind of a checks and balances thing, where the president doesn't have direct involvement, direct insight or oversight into things.
Okay, so imagine that's how
there's kind of a middle ground.
Let's say we have the job of appointing judges this way, right? So instead of the president saying, I'm going to appoint this judge, the president in this illustration would appoint the people who then would create the names of the people who they would appoint as the judge. It's a smart kind of way to do that. I mean, now a judge is a little different, but basically.
Yeah. Well, it keeps the president from basically ruling by fiat.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't just say this, so shall it be done. And that allows more convention involvement. It also provides for a very deliberate process. I think if the Southern Baptist Convention processes are anything, they are deliberate.
Yeah.
And they are slow. And that's for a reason, because whenever you've got 14 million people, 45,000 or 47,500 churches, you don't need, quick reactive moves. I mean, it's a big organism. Right. And you don't need to do big shifts. Imagine if every time a new president came in, the entire structure of the convention changed. And every 2 years we're doing this. We'd never have any kind of consistency to be able to be on mission together, which is the original intent of the convention, is for the propagation of the gospel globally. And that's why we cooperate. And these stopgaps, these deliberate systems keep us from kind of jerking around too much. They keep the wheel straight, you're not swerving all over the road with what we're doing.
Well, so the president, who's elected for one term, nominates the people for that committee, and then nominates some other people as well, right? That's
the people to help out is with registration, the tellers, and also the Committee on Resolutions. So, those are kind of the four big groups that the president nominates. They nominate the Committee on Committees, the Committee on Resolutions, which brings the kind of official statements of the convention, but also non-binding
kind of the megaphone
statements
of the meeting.
Yeah, it's basically says, hey, these are the things that are important to Southern Baptists this year. And so they provide the resolutions, and then also the tellers, they kind of appoint people to help out with the workings of the convention at the convention, people to count the ballots, people to help people register, tellers.
So what
and
people need to know is, though, that the president, the convention president, isn't selecting the next ERLC president.
No.
Or he's not doing it.
No.
He's not doing any of that. He doesn't have that
No.
sort of authority.
No, doesn't have that authority. Now, that's the second thing, is the nominations that we talked about. The third thing, now, this is where it is important, because he's also involved in the workings of the boards and commissions and seminaries. Well, not the commission, not the ERLC, but the president does serve on the board in his role as an EC member, as well as a member of Lifeway, NAM, IMB, Guidestone, the four boards of the convention. The Lifeway and Guidestone, formerly known as the Baptist Sunday School Board and the Annuity Board. So that's why they're called boards. And then North American Mission Board, International Mission Board. And then also as a member of the seminary trustees. He's also on those. So
kind of an ex facto type role.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. And then, so he appoints the committees and sits on those boards. What else does he do? You said there was three things?
That was the third thing.
Oh, that's a third
Appoints
thing.
committees, presides over the meetings, sits on the boards.
And sits on the boards. And then, so here's the real
And we're
question.
saying he. It doesn't have to be a he. I just want to make that clear. In our polity, it's more than likely going to be a he. Let's just be honest. But it isn't just a he. Just be clear.
And people sometimes are asking, sometimes you see him, or it could be her, traveling around speaking.
Yes.
Now, okay, so in my state convention, Utah, Idaho, Southern Baptist Convention, when I was the president, I was just gonna say when I ran as the president, I didn't run. I just got sort of stuck there. But when I was the president, and the current president will set the vision for the meeting and set the theme. So he does that too, right?
Yep, same thing. Yeah, that's part of presiding over the meeting.
Okay, cool. Now, that being said, people are going to hear the term president in the Southern Baptist world in a lot of other areas too. And I even mentioned.
Well, you just mentioned it.
Yeah, I did. So
every state convention has a president.
Yes.
Which does basically the same thing, kind of. It's different in each state, depending on the Constitution, whether you sit on the different committees or boards of the state. But so every state has that, and it differs from state to state, like we said. But then every national entity, has a president as well. So I work at the Executive Committee, which is the fiduciary entity of the convention. You mentioned the ERLC a minute ago. We mentioned the boards, the seminaries. They all have a president who is basically the day-to-day operations director for that organization. So the CEO of that entity, they direct the day-to-day operations of that entity. So when I worked for the president of Lifeway at Lifeway, Dr. Rayner ran that's Tom Rayner. He ran the day-to-day operations of that entity.
Okay.
And now I work over at the Executive Committee. We are presidentless. And that's one of those things.
That tends to be
right
where
now.
the biggest confusion lies, is the EC president, Executive Committee president.
Yes.
Is working kind of in a full-time, not kind of, but very much a full-time capacity.
Very much so.
Very visual, so people see that person.
Yes.
And that person's responsibility, however, is very different than the convention president. They're working with the Executive Committee with responsibilities.
That's correct.
Not overseeing the International Mission Board.
No.
So I think that's
nobody oversees the International Mission Board except the president of the International Mission Board.
Right. So I think that's where people sometimes start to get really confused. They think there's just this absolute top down from one person. It's actually from lots of different various people with different responsibilities.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. Okay, let's go to this before we run out of time. So we're watching in the news. People are suddenly going, hey, so-and-so is going to nominate so-and-so to be the president, and this is their intention. And then we read in the Baptist press that this person's going to
thanks for reading, by the way.
What was that?
Thanks for reading.
Oh, yeah. So this person's going to do, and so then all of a sudden we have people making these announcements. What is the actual process for being nominated for the Southern Baptist Convention presidency?
So for any of the offices, really, at the annual meeting, they say, there's an announcement that coming up shortly we will have nominations for enter the office, president, vice president, second vice president, recording registration secretary, those 5 offices that we elect. So they announced, if you have a nomination, please report to the side of the stage to nominate your person. So
during
the nominations
during the actual meeting.
Yeah, during the actual meeting. So it's scheduled for 1:45. So 1:15, they'll say that, so you go on backstage. So you show up, you zip around there, and then at 1:45, whenever it says nominations are open, they'll go up there and say nominations for the office of president of the Southern Baptist Convention are now open. And they've drawn straws and whoever it is, and they walk up there and then they officially place Bryan Catherman
the official part
into nomination.
What we're seeing in the news is just the intention of what could be.
The people are announcing their intent to nominate, in this case, where the hypothetical you were using, Bryan Catherman. So I would say, I would send something to Baptist Press or what.
Let's change the hypothetical now for the sake of this particular hypothetical and say, what if I wanted to just nominate? What if I made it known that I had the intention of nominating Josiah Walker to be the
Josiah,
Baptist, right?
Lucky him.
He's not here, so he gets to play this game with us. How is that ending up in the Baptist Press, or how are people being?
Typically they text me or they call me or they email me
because they want it known.
Yeah, because they want to make it known that I have the intent to do this, because it helps, obviously, whoever it is. If you really want Josiah to be the president, you need to let people know you're going to nominate Josiah for president.
Yeah, because
if you just show up in Anaheim and you're like, hey, I'm nominating Josiah, and everybody goes, the grocery guy?
Who's that guy? Yeah, right. Well, so even right now, there's a church in Texas that's bringing 3 of these prospective nominees in to have a discussion, I guess. I mean, so obviously this is a pretty big deal. But
so, you want people to nominate, and I'll say this, I like the fact that we're getting that people know. I'm all about informing people of who's going to be running for what. That's a good thing. I think it's good for us to know and to be able to do research and to know who the candidates are before you show up in Anaheim. I think the worst possible thing would be we all show up in Anaheim, nobody knows what's going to happen.
Well,
and then all of a sudden Bryan Catherman goes up there and says, hey, nominating Josiah.
And everyone goes, who the heck is that
goes,
guy?
Who? We haven't had time to vet him, to check him, to know anything about him.
Well, in Nashville,
so it's good.
I didn't know all the people in Nashville. I had never.
Well, sometimes you get somebody that just walks up there and says, hey, I remember that a few years ago. I was like, what? Who? What? Who's that? Yeah. We have another nominee. So, totally. That's what I talked. Me and Amy joke about this on the podcast the other day. If you wanted to filibuster the Southern Baptist Convention annual meeting,
why are you telling people how to do this?
I'm just telling you. This is the only place. Here's the only thing. There is no limit. There is no you can't have more than X number of candidates. If you wanted to just absolutely train wreck everything, it's the 1 weak spot. It's like Goliath with the spot, on his head.
What you're saying,
the one spot that could kill him.
I get all my friends. And we each just pick somebody, and we just keep going up there nominating. Yes. Oh goodness.
You could nominate, and it's 3 minutes. You get 3 minutes.
If this happens,
every one of those,
everyone's going to blame you.
Yes. And I will sit over there on one hand, hate it, and on the other hand, absolutely love it, because that's the great thing about the polity, is that the messengers are in control. And if the messengers decide at some point, I guess somebody could go up to a microphone and say, I move that we close nominations for this. And then they could do that.
And then the vote, there's a whole process for that.
Yes, then you got to vote and everything like that.
Say, no, we're not going to vote for that. We're going to keep taking them.
Yes. So
it's entirely
awesome. Possible that could happen, but oh my goodness, that would be such a mess.
There are people now scheming on how to make that happen.
It would be bad, but it would be hilarious at the same time. I think it would be totally bad, because it would totally mess up the schedule, and these things. There's a lot of business to do in 2 days.
It'd be a nightmare for the vote.
Yeah. So just think about it. You have 10 spots on your voting ballot, and I don't know what would happen. I don't know what would happen if we had more than 10 announced candidates,
because 15 nominees, because everybody from California is going to go nominate their pastor.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if that happens. It'll just be a parliamentary. After about 6, I'm going to be looking over to somebody saying, "Hey, make a motion to shut it off," because we're going to run out of space on the ballot.
They're going to go, "No, Jonathan Howe said on the podcast, this is what we should do."
No, I'm just saying, that is, it's open until it's closed.
Wow.
So you can nominate. We could have 20 candidates for whatever. I don't think that's wise. I think everybody would agree that that's not a good thing. And it would kind of make a mockery of our system.
It'd be difficult to figure out anyway.
Yes, because I mean, think about it. By about the fourth or fifth, you're going, who am I? I don't remember which one to vote for.
What are we doing?
You'd be trying to lose. You'd be catching. It'd just be an absolute mess. But
okay, well, Jonathan, we're pretty much out of time, but I have one more question. I really want to. So this has been the one that's I think got most people's attention, especially those who are not involved with the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yes.
And so we haven't been mentioning names, and I appreciate that. We're trying to keep this a little more timeless on process. But
Yes.
I do have to mention this name because it kind of stirred this up, and that's Voddie Baucham. So a lot of people know Voddie Baucham. They may or may not know his background. They may or may not know that he was SBC at one time, but now he's working in a seminary, on the African continent, and he's not at the SBC church and that sort of thing. But he was nominated for the Pastors Conference president, or again, it was we intend to nominate for the Pastors Conference president. And so that got a lot of people
That's correct.
talking about it. So first of all, before we even go to how that all plays out, the difference between the Pastors Conference president and any of these other presidents. Give us in a nutshell.
Okay, so the Pastors Conference is a little bit of a unique thing because it is not an official organization. It has no bylaws. It has no constitution. It has no rules. It's kind of like Outback back in the day. No rules, just right. And I mean, that's the weird thing about it is that there are no rules. There are no there's no whenever we have other things in the SBC, like if you want to be a trustee for something, or like you're on the committee on committees, there are rules to who can be on the committee on committees. You have to be a member of a church and good standing. You've got to be, in the convention or wherever you are, the geographic location for 3 years. You got all these other things. Your wife can't be on something. You can't have served here or there. You can't be on another thing. Like there's all these parameters on service. For the Pastors Conference, there's nothing. It's just anybody.
How?
The question this year is,
wait a second.
What are the rules?
Okay, yeah, that is the question, because what are the rules? Back this up a little bit. So what you're telling, what's kind of the history of this? If there's no rules, was it just kind of we've always done this? Is that what's happened?
It's kind of just a passed on thing, and it's just a convention that's been organized before the annual meeting. It's usually Sunday night and Monday before the annual meeting, because the annual meeting by the actual Constitution can start on Tuesday morning. It says it in the thing. You can't start.
Yeah, because you have rules for the convention.
Yeah, we have rules. We have rules for that. There's no rules on the other stuff. So, we have it's been kind of like this passed down tradition thing, and it just kind of has organically evolved and organically been handed down. And the guys, the pastors that have run it, to my knowledge, we've never had a non-Southern Baptist who's been a president of the Southern Baptist Convention Pastors Conference. I mean, I think that goes probably without saying, but this year it seems like we may have a nominee. There's an announced nominee or intent to nominate. You mentioned Voddie Baucham.
Who gets to vote and who gets to go? If there's not rules, how does that get determined?
That's the other thing. There's really no rules on who gets to vote, and there's no rules on like how they vote. I mean, they've done the voting differently in the past few years. Like some years they had hand ballots, and everybody filled them out, and you passed them in, and they counted them up, and they announced the winner.
That was determined by the convention or the conference president, though, correct?
Yes. I mean, whoever the current president is determines how they do the thing.
They kind of make the
last year. I mean, they had like 4 or 5 nominees for president last year of the Pastors Conference, and again, it took like an hour to do the nominees, and the conference really got bogged down because of the nominations because it took so long. Again, filibustering legally, I guess, but last year it wasn't a majority rule. It was just a popular vote. Whoever won the popular vote, he got the most, and it was clear he won. And that Matt Hensley won. And Matt was a pastor in New Mexico at the time. He's since moved on to be the social missions strategist at Collin County Baptist Association in the Collin Baptist Association. It's Collin County. It's right outside of Dallas, northeast Dallas. So he's moved on to that, but I mean, he was a Southern Baptist pastor and was elected. And to my knowledge, nobody who wasn't a Southern Baptist pastor has ever served as the president of the Southern Baptist Pastors Conference. So I'm not, and it's possible that the conference rules can be set. I don't know how that works. I'm not involved in that. That's up to President Hensley on that. Also, that president has zero duties other than just putting on that conference.
But he might, like I said, it's kind of confusing, but he might be able to set some parameters, because I mean, how do you even get in, and who gets to come, and what if spaces? There's a lot of factors here that unfortunately something that probably didn't draw the kind of interest in some years past has probably going to draw a lot of interest this year.
Yeah, possible.
Very.
So it just, you don't really know. There are other nominees or announced candidates, I guess, right now. Daniel Dickard is another one right now, I think. And here's another unique thing that they did this year. They announced basically, hey, we're not doing vice presidents and treasurers of the pastors conference and all that, or secretaries, whatever it may be. We're not doing that. We're just voting for the president, and that's it. Because last year, I mean, again, we had about maybe 9, 10, 11 nominees total among pastor, for vice president, president, vice president, and treasurer or whatever. And it took an hour. And the conference really got bogged down and behind schedule, and it just threw everything off.
You shared, this is kind of this would be the funny filibuster piece, but in our state convention, it's similar. Who doesn't have rules? They don't even have a budget line item right now in our convention for it. Like, we just collect an offering for the pastors conference, but it's actually watching the other guys who've done this. It's just more work. It's amazing. I don't know why anybody, it looks like something you go, I'd like to attend, but I don't want to be responsible for it. It's like one of those kind of things.
Yeah. It's nice to show up, but I'd hate to have to run the funding or anything like that. Cause here's the thing, the pastors conference, you're not just the president, you're the chief fundraising officer at that point, because the total cost, and Bryan, I'm glad you're sitting down for this. The total cost annually to put on just the pastors conference of, all the meals, all the catering, the production, everything, all this stuff. Because you got all these volunteers and everything like that. Around $400,000.
Oh my goodness. And so my guess is you've already got the space reserved for the SBC annual meeting. So they're not even, oh my goodness, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, part of that 400 is 100,000 to the EC to rent the space. For production and all that. So there's a big chunk that the EC gets of that. But that is just to reimburse, and the actual cost for the EC and the production and everything to the EC is around $2.25. So like the pastors conference reimburses about half of it, of the actual cost to do it. But then they have other costs of all the planning and everything, the production, programs, everything. So it's a lot.
It's not cheap. So this year we've heard that there could potentially be 15 nominations for the Southern Baptist Convention president, and there might be some fascinating events playing out in the pastors conference. That's what we've heard.
You just never know. That's the thing. We don't know until we go to Anaheim. So come to Anaheim and find out.
Okay, well, this has all been really helpful. If someone wants to learn more about the Southern Baptist Convention, I always recommend Amy's book.
SBC FAQs.
FAQs. Yep, SBC FAQs. I think she's going to have to do an update on that.
Yeah, they're actually doing an update right now. I just bought a bunch of the old version, the original version. So version 1. We've changed some stuff in the Constitution stuff, so it needs an update. That'll be coming out, I think, later this year, first part of next year. So end of 22, beginning of 23. The current one's still fine. There's just some minor tweaks in the Constitution that have been changed.
Also like the appendices,
but the balance of it's correct.
The appendices and stuff are going to need to be updated because there's a lot of history in it too. So they want to keep adding new things. But if you know nothing about the SBC, that is my SBC go-to book.
Yes.
Just to understand how all this stuff works. And by the way, when the new one comes out, put a little bug in Amy's ear. Let's get her on. Get her on Salty Believer Unscripted and talk about her new book, because I love that book.
And then also listen to our podcast every week, and that'll keep you up to date too.
You guys talk about a lot of the happenings and the news and how it plays out. Okay, the other thing is how much of this, someone could go to the SBC.net, right?
Yeah,
and
it's there.
Find Constitution stuff and find info. Yeah. So it is out there. Can be learned, right?
It can be learned.
All right, good.
So
if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, if they have questions, if someone wants to get in touch with you, or if maybe one of your bosses wants to call and scold you for setting up a filibuster for the presidency, How do they get in touch with
I don't have a boss right now. Remember, I don't have a president.
That's true.
I have an interim boss. He's just an interim.
How does someone get a hold of you in your role as the VP of Communication at the Southern Baptist?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's available at sbc.net. You just go to the staff contact page, and I'm right there. But jhowe@sbc.net is my email address, and I respond to all my emails, all 300,000 of them a day, it seems. But yeah, it's just, so if you have questions or whatever, feel free to hit us up on that, and we're glad to help out. And always happy to help out on Twitter, at Jonathan_Howe on Twitter, and happy to help out anytime.
And you just want people to come find you the whole time at the annual meeting, right?
Absolutely. I'll be sitting up front in the on the stage. There's the main stage for the annual meeting, and if you're sitting in the audience, just to the left of the main stage, there's a staff stage basically where we all sit and do our work. And if you want to come by and say hey, be sure to do that. So
it looks like something on the side of a golf course, like at a major golf tournament.
Yeah, like
or,
the media
baseball stats are being kept over there.
Yeah,
or something.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for joining me in this. I think this has been very helpful. I greatly appreciate it, and I want to encourage any of our listeners, go check out SBC This Week with Jonathan Howe and Amy Whitfield, and then go ahead and start making your plan. Oh man, we're out of time, but there's an app for the conference this year.
Yeah, just download the SBC annual meeting app. Go to the App Store. If you got Google, go to the Google Play Store. Go to the Apple App Store if you have a real phone, like an Apple iPhone, like the normal people in the world. Go to the
even
App
if you're
Store.
not going to attend the meeting, you can see all this. It's live stream.
Yeah, you can get all the stuff and information. And if you're not going to attend and just want to follow along online, if you download the Acts 2 app, so that's like the book in the Bible, Acts 2. If you download that app, they will be live streaming the convention in that app. So there's be a live link online, but it's easier probably if you're just in your app, or it'll be on your Roku, your Apple Fire, or your Apple TV, your Amazon Fire TV, those kind of things. Anything you've got that has streaming apps, they've got it, the Acts 2 app.
And then you can go check it out. Or you can go talk to your pastor if your church has not done this and say, I'm interested.
And have your
messenger
church send you to Anaheim. Let's go.
You can work all that out. Hey, well, thanks, Jonathan. And for all those who are listening, thank you. We'd love to hear from you. You can find more information at SaltyBeliever.com. If you have questions more about this, I would say direct them to me, but maybe direct them to Jonathan. So that might be easier. Hey, man, thanks for this, and I think we'll probably see you in June, if not sooner.
Yeah, man. See you in Anaheim.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening. Find more information at SaltyBeliever.com.